All right, so let's make sure our audio and video are working great. I am literally looking on my phone on YouTube. Oh, wait. Got to make sure. I think we are in the YouTube studio. Let's see here. Interesting. Got to make sure that it's working and we're live. Saying it's still waiting for me. So, give me a sec. View on YouTube. Okay, continue to YouTube. Okay.
What do you see on your end, John? Or are you still logging in?
Can't hear anything since I'm in the room.
Okay, so we're just working, figuring out on our end. So thank you. So John says like he can't see or hear anything, but he's in the room. So he'll be in the LinkedIn.
Okay,
room.
so on my YouTube, it should be live. It says it's still waiting. Let me do one more check. In the meantime, if you are joining us from wherever you're joining us, give us a hi or where are you coming from in the chat. Okay. I know that on, oh, I know what I did. Got it. Yes, 1 second. Let me go to my channel. And it is operating out of the unlisted version. 1 second.
And so do we have our LinkedIn?
Give me a sec. Let me go into the studio and I will update it. It's operating off of the wrong one. So 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. That should do it. And I'm going to make this one unlisted. Here we go. Okay, I got the notification on my phone that we are live on YouTube and on LinkedIn. We're good?
Let me just double check. I just going there now. LinkedIn, join. No, it says starting soon.
Okay. Yeah, so we can see the timer. We have one person viewing. That's me.
Oh, no. My husband will also be in there.
Okay. I think
well, he'll be in LinkedIn.
Yes.
So how do we get LinkedIn going?
All right. This is the joys of trying something for the first time. Right? Let's see. View on LinkedIn. Okay. Okay. Let's see. If I join? Okay. It says starting soon. Got you. All right. Are you in the LinkedIn studio, Lauren, or the
No,
YouTube?
I think I'm in the YouTube. Do you want me to go to the LinkedIn?
Let's see. I'm going there now.
Okay.
Let's see if we can do this. Okay. So I'm on the stage, but you're not. That's interesting. Okay. So I'm not sure how to do that, but I'm going to go back to YouTube because I think, do we have to join into both?
Well, I sort of thought we did.
You know what? We just lost Lauren. All right, Lauren, I think we need to be on both. And then we're going to get started. We will be starting soon. Okay. Gonna wait for Lauren to join us. I appreciate your patience. I will put a timestamp so that you guys know when you're watching the replay when to get started. Yes. So, all right, Lauren. Hey, Lauren. So I think that we need to join both the LinkedIn studio and the YouTube studio. So if you're able to go back into the main StreamYard place. Okay. Awesome. I've got you in both places, I think. Yes. Okay. Let me. Okay, I'm not sure. Live, free. Okay. Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Okay. So I've got join. So I'm joined on LinkedIn, in the studio and in LinkedIn. It says share. And so I'm going to put the link to the YouTube video in the chat for the LinkedIn event. And that way we can get started. Because we are people who get it done. That's it. I put it in the LinkedIn invite so people can find us there. All righty. So I'm going to. All right. Thank you, John. All right. So let's see. I'm going to share the screen. All right. And here we are. Okay. So welcome, everybody. And thank you for your patience and thank you for your patience, for sharing your time. Whether you're able to join us live or you're watching the replay, you are welcome here. And we know that your time is important, but most importantly, by watching this workshop, this free live workshop or the replay, you are actually making time for yourself. Guaranteed that all of us, myself and Lauren included, have dealt with imposter syndrome in lots of elements of our life. And today, specifically, we're going to talk about how imposter syndrome has affected our financial decisions. And that's a biggie, because sometimes we don't even realize how they're connected. And we're going to talk a little bit about, our backgrounds, so you get some idea of like, why are we talking about imposter syndrome and money specifically? It's because we see it a lot in our careers and in our industry. We're going to go through a quick agenda, and we're going to dive in where we're going to give you 3 tips on how to overcome that. Now, we're going to put in the chat a link to a worksheet, so you can actually work through this while we are talking about it. Or if you're watching the replay, you can actually pause us and every tip, and then work through the questions for yourself as they come up, and it'll only take you a couple minutes, maybe each question, maybe a bit longer. If you're like me, I do a little bit of work initially, and then it kind of sits in my mind in the background as I'm processing it and like coming up with, what does this mean for me, and all that kind of jazz. So we've got a worksheet as well. It's free. We're not even asking you for your email or contact info. Lauren's about to pop that in the chat, and from the YouTube stream. And let me add you to the stage here. There we go. And that way you get to work with it. So we're giving you a lot of free stuff today, and we're really excited about that. It's really just, there's so much to talk about on this topic. Let me present this here. And so we are going to just kind of cover a couple things, but if you want to dive a little more, we'll talk about what that means towards the end. So let's go to the next slide really quickly, because I'm a financial planner. I'm a licensed financial planner, so I need to provide a disclaimer. So that's what you're seeing on the screen here. And essentially what it means is that I'm not providing financial advice. This is only for information and entertainment and education. Past performance is not indicative of future performance. I'm not giving any kind of investment, insurance, or financial planning advice. I'm simply sharing my experiences, my human experiences, and hopefully that connects with you and gets you to move from where you are today to who you want to become moving forward. And we have to do a standard disclaimer for Lauren, because she has a background as a psychotherapist. She's licensed. Therefore, there's a lot of legalese that we need to make sure that we've got up here. She's not providing therapy or any kind of therapeutic advice. She is also providing her very human experience and things that she's seen and experienced herself. So now that we've covered all the legalese, the disclaimers, and all of that jazz based on our respective professions, let's jump in. And feel free. What's that?
I said, thank you.
Yes. And if you are joining us, please type in the chat, where are you watching from or listening from? Even if it's in the replay, I would love to know. I just started my YouTube channel about a month and a half ago. So please be generous and kind because I'm StreamYarding and I'm doing this whole streaming thing for the first time ever after only having started my YouTube channel a month and a half ago. And I'll tell you that the analytics are so interesting that people from all over the world are listening in and joining in. And so I would love to know, where are you listening and watching from? Pop that in the comments, and we can't wait to connect with you. Meet your hosts. I am Annie Izmirliyan. I am a certified financial planner. I'm a trust and estate planner. I've also got, I'm just going to change the view on this. Okay. Or we can do it this way. We'll do it this way. I'm a trust and estate planner, and I'm also Kolbe certified, which is really about trusting your instincts when you need to succeed. And I've also been named a 10X mentor expert on finance with an organization called Powerful Women Today. And most recently, I became a #1 international best-selling author on Amazon, which just blows my mind. Not only do I help people with their financial planning goals and needs, I also mentor advisors and leaders in financial services. I run a whole program on that. And I also do a lot of public speaking. In fact, when I was a kid, I would be that person in class who was very curious and inquisitive. And my classmates would always kind of nudge me with their elbow and say, Annie, you ask the question, you ask. And because I wasn't afraid to put my hand up and ask, hey, I have a question, miss or sir. And so I was kind of known for that. I love doing presentations in school, and I just kind of thrived in that environment. And it wasn't until I got into kind of working and getting a job and getting into the corporate world that suddenly was seen as a bad thing. I would get comments like, "You asked too many questions, Annie." And I had only asked 1 or 2 questions. Or, "Don't say anything, Annie. Don't speak up." But it was okay if other people spoke up in the meeting. So this happened so many times. In fact, I remember an old boss of mine saying, "Oh, that was bold of you to reach out to that person," to a person who actually enjoys when people reach out to them and like sharing insights and sharing their experience and their wisdom. But that person had a problem with it. That person had a problem with me being bold, with me speaking up, with me reaching out to people, with me expanding my community, my network, my horizons. And over time, what happened was that I started to get quieter and quieter and quieter. And what was really interesting is that we would have these national, leadership meetings. And then somebody said, "Annie, do you have any questions?" Because they were looking for engagement, because nobody was participating in the meeting. And I said, "No." So the person they thought they could count on to ask really good questions, to provide interesting insights and get the conversation going was silenced. It took me so long to work myself out of that and to come back to who I really was and who I really am, which is that inquisitive, that curious person, the person who's bold, who's innovative, who says, "Let's try this. Why not? Let's try a multi-streaming on a software we've never tried before and try to figure it out. Why not? Why not collaborate with somebody who's got complementary strengths and skills?" And so what I learned over time was, when people were asking me not to ask too many questions or not to speak up too much, that had more to do with them than it had to do with me. And that was a huge, huge aha moment. But also, I had to go through a lot of like self-discovery and a lot of self-development work to figure out, what is the learning here? Maybe I'm in the wrong environment. Maybe I'm with the wrong people. Because I can tell you that now, having left the corporate world, although it was absolutely great experience and I met some amazing people and I learned a lot along the way, and it definitely built up my skills and strengths over the years. And I've been in financial services for over 20 years now. So I've seen the whole gamut of this industry and still learning. But it wasn't until I left the corporate world and decided I need to do something on my own. So I became an independent financial planner. I'm a multipreneur running, a couple businesses. They're all complementary and with the same foundation and integrated. But now I get to do it my way. On July 24th, 2024, I finally found the name for my YouTube channel. Annie Unleashed. I got it. Now I didn't know what to do with it. Then all the limiting beliefs started to come in. That imposter syndrome started kicking in. What will people think? What will they say? And I was thinking of all these negative things, right? What if I make a mistake? What if the lighting's off, or what if the technology doesn't work, or all of these limiting beliefs. I had a great community around me. I had a few villages around me because I placed myself in supportive, collaborative communities where connection was emphasized, where support was emphasized, where uplifting each other was emphasized. So it took me some time. And then finally, until January 15, 2025, I finally recorded and posted my first video on my YouTube channel. And man, it was liberating. It was so liberating because I gotten to the point where I was okay being imperfect and having fun with that. Taking action is liberating. Taking action helps with all of that imposter syndrome because once you do it, as my daughter said to me this morning, she goes, Mommy, I'm so excited for you. She's a preteen. I'm so happy for you. This is going to be so great. She was dancing. And I said, Yeah, thank you. But I'm really nervous. Like I've never done it this way before. I've spoken in public, on stages, virtually across the country. I have taught. I'm a part-time professor of financial planning and insurance. So I teach. I stand up in front of like anywhere from 40 to 60 people for 3 hours straight. But this I was nervous about. This I'd never done before. And so my daughter said to me, Yeah, you'll be nervous the first time. But in a few years from now, you're going to be, live this, whatever. Next, this is easy. And what was probably the most powerful thing about what she said? That she could easily foresee me doing this for years in the future. Like it was no big deal. Like I had mastered this and I continue to share my story and help others for years and years moving forward. Wisdom out of the mouth of babes. So that's a little bit about me. I'd love to pass it on to your next co-host, Lauren Jeffery.
Thank you very much, Annie. So my story isn't really as different as there is an echo. Hang on a second. So my story isn't markedly different than Annie's. We both have the same journey in the sense that I've also worked in over wealth management for over 25 years. Sorry, Annie, do you hear an echo or is it just me?
I don't hear an echo, but if you're on another, like if you opened up LinkedIn or something else and you haven't muted it, you might hear that.
Okay, you might. There we go. All right, let's try this again. No, I'm still.
Let me see. I can edit your mic settings. Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that better for you?
There's a delay, and so it's throwing me off.
Okay.
But that's okay. So thank you very much, Annie. I really appreciate the introduction. Much like Annie's experience, I'm no stranger to imposter syndrome. I've worked in wealth management for over 25 years uh, in the compliance and regulatory space. I used to teach financial advisors not to steal. The twist: I've never sold a financial product or service in my entire life. In 2019, my world comes crashing down, and I flunk out of corporate life. I can't do it anymore. My body is broken, and I got to figure out a new way to earn money because I'm not independently wealthy. So I decided to go back to school and learn a trade and become a psychotherapist. And what I learned almost flunking out in my first class is that I really struggle with imposter syndrome. I worked in an industry that I really didn't belong to, so people told me, because I didn't hold the licenses. I didn't have the same experiences. And then when I go to become a therapist, I'm not a helper. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a nurse, a social worker that all my peers were. So again, I was the outsider looking in because I was the lady that taught people not to steal. But it was this time that I spent becoming a psychotherapist that my practice management business was born. And it's through this um, not having the confidence in myself and not recognizing it, not knowing what to name. All I knew is that I was hungry and I needed to eat. So how am I going to do that? So fast forward, I get my master's, I become a psychotherapist, I start working with uh, ultra high net worth financial advisors and individuals with significant assets. And I learned that there's a lot of people just like me, high achieving professionals earning decent incomes and then some, feeling like frauds. So these are our doctors, our lawyers, our financial advisors. These are our clients. So really, Sanity Project was born out of a desire for me to help myself. But as an extension, I recognized that so many more people needed help. So here I am. I'm ready to help because your life doesn't have to be uh, consumed by this sanity, by these things that just rob us of our joy in life. And that's why we're here.
Amazing, Lauren. Thank you for sharing that. It touches me every time you tell the story. And I know there's so much more to the story. Well, there we go. There's so much more to the story, as is true for many people. And so we're gonna dive in. We'll give you some other examples. But we'd love it if you also kind of chimed in the comments, whether you're live or in the replay, so we can have a conversation, because this little thing called imposter syndrome actually thrives in isolation.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not just about imposter syndrome,
Mm,
because this is the one thing that's coming out in my research is that it's not just the imposter syndrome. There's a whole systemic piece to it that we're now covering up and glossing over as imposter syndrome. And we're blaming people. No, it's you, but it's really not. It's the system, these systemic barriers, whether we're women, disabled, people of color, newcomers, whatever it is. And so we cover up others' bad behavior by taking it on ourselves.
Ooh, got to sit with that one.
Oh yeah.
Got to sit with that one. Let me just bring up the next slide here. So, go ahead, Lauren. I know you wanted to cover this. I'm trying to, hold on. I think these slides will work better. Nope. We're still formatting got messed up. Oh, well.
This is the learning experience.
Absolutely.
So really what we're going to cover in this session is really get an understanding. I'm going to help you understand what imposter syndrome is or is not. We're going to talk and maybe share a couple stories, but we're also going to talk about the 3 actionable steps that you can leave with today that will help start your journey back to feeling good and having a positive self-image and identity, because really that's part of the problem. So,
give me a second.
Right.
Trying to add to stage. There we go.
Thank you. All right, let's just jump right in.
All right, let's do that.
So if you are on the replay, there is a link to a free handout. Please download it, because this is going to be your place to start your journey. Let's talk about what imposter syndrome is. Imposter syndrome isn't technically a disease, an illness, or something that we recognize in the psychotherapy Bible of the DSM. Right, the DSM-5 is the place where all of our mental illnesses are listed and accounted for and do research.
Lauren,
yeah.
Sorry, the audio is a little choppy. I don't know if you can, before you dive in, I just wanted to make sure that we address that before we go into all our tips.
So I'm not sure how else to address this.
That's a little better.
Yeah. So I'm just going to start.
Okay, that's better. I don't know what you did, but it's better.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So imposter syndrome is better realized or understood as a phenomenon, meaning it's something that happens to anyone. Actually, about 80% of the world's population suffers from imposter syndrome. And what this means is people are feeling insecure, doubting their abilities, not engaging fully in life, and actually isolating, which is a word that Annie brought up, which is why we talk so much about community and connection, because those are the antidotes for isolation. Understanding that, let's talk about the first way we engage and get rid of imposter syndrome. So, first things first, we need to reframe how we view things. So, when we talk about our success, we talk about it, we look at it in all the things that it gives us and others. So, this means we are not looking at what we get from the outside in, but what we internally have to give someone else, right? Because our job on this planet is to leave it a little better than we left it, help others, be in service to others, and generally just be a nice person. And the way we do that is by serving, inspiring, and leading others. That inherently puts us in a better right mindset when we focus on others as opposed to ourselves. So, first things first, what you're going to do in the download sheet
Mhm.
is how does your success benefit others? So, if I take my work as a practice management expert and psychotherapist, my success will benefit how others see themselves and view others. This means there's a better client experience. Financial advisors will have better relationships with their clients. Our clients will be able to interact better with us because we will be able to support them in that journey because we're thinking about their needs. Another way we can put this is, and I'll put it in the chat, is the empathetic position. So this is what therapists do. We go to this place called the empathetic position. And that means we look at other people's needs ahead of ours and how we help them move forward, right? So when we say that shifts the focus from self-care to service, these are all the actionable items that my work and my success gives others. Because it's not about the money I make, it's about the service to others. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I can relate to this because what I find is when we're going through this, I'm going to call it a moment because it's temporary. Sometimes it's a little longer temporary, and sometimes it's just a moment. But when we're in this place of imposter syndrome, we are so stuck in our own heads that we forget to look around at who we could positively and constructively impact around us. The very people who are waiting for us to do what we need to do to show up in the way we need to show up, so that they can be uplifted and supported and inspired to take action in their way. Oh, no, I see you put a headset on, but it's not connected yet. And so I'm just going to go through the action step while you connect that. What we're suggesting as an action step is write down or audio record. Yes, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Yay. Oh, so much better. So write down or audio record for yourself, or do your audio to text, whatever works for you. 3 ways your success benefits others.
So if I did it, my success benefits individuals' mental health, reduces individuals' personal stress. I'm just putting in this in the chat room.
Yeah.
Personal stress. And so let's now bring the money piece into this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about money, we need to understand what our relationship is with money. Do we view it as a tool, a means to an end? Is it part of how we identify with the world at large? Is it who we are? Are we a bunch of zeros? Right? And so this first exercise is really great to help separate the monetary piece of it, the what you get, for what you're giving. Right?
Yeah. You know, I was in a mastermind group, and a very successful woman was in this group. She helps middle-aged women, and she does coaching, and she started a podcast. And I hope she's watching because she's very inspiring. But I remember her saying, you know, she was doing really well. Like it's probably in the top, I think 5% of podcasts. Like it's doing well. Okay. And I'm sure that she's monetizing it successfully. But she was struggling with spending a little bit of money in order to save herself time, energy, and move things forward and really accelerate her business. Now, I happen to have some background in finances, and I said to her that little bit of advice, which was, you know, and I'm gonna share what I told her, but I also said, please check with your accountant. Okay, but I said to her, if you get a loan, a business loan, or your line of credit, or whatever the case may be, if you're using it for investment or business purposes, the interest is tax deductible. And the gasp in the room, like, oh, what? We never knew that. And I said, but please check with your accountant to make sure it works for you and that you have a payment plan all figured out. Like, don't just jump into it. Like, be responsible. Okay.
Yeah.
And shortly afterwards, I think I connected with her like a week or two later, and she says, Annie, I did it. I got, you know, whatever X amount of, you know, a few $1,000s of a loan, and I'm super happy. And now I feel empowered to do what I needed to do for my business to move it forward faster. Mm-hmm. And I felt so good about that. But so often what I see, or don't see rather, is people approaching their money person, whether it's an advisor, their planner, their accountant, and say, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Is there a way for me to do this that would make sense?
So one of the things I hear a lot is especially from my financial advisor clients, is the money that their clients take out. And financial advisors are often reluctant to challenge their clients, especially with withdrawals or taking out loans, right?
Yeah.
Because we think about, sorry, reading the chat and I should.
Sorry. I'm distracting you.
Oh, so okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, you distracted me. Okay.
Sorry about that. Lauren put some great comments, but she put it in the private chat and not in the public comments.
And I can't figure out how to put them in the public comments. It's all a thing.
All right.
It's all a thing.
I'll put it for you.
Because if we don't understand our relationship with money and how to use it as a tool, as it's intended, this is why people are often reluctant to invest in themselves, because they see it as money out and less money. They don't recognize the investment in themselves, in their business, and how they need to move things forward. And so I think it was you were like, sometimes you got to like invest in yourself. 1,000% you do. And I think as women, it's even more difficult, and that we need to give ourselves permission, because we still don't operate like this. And so when you're writing down your success and benefit others, don't think about necessarily the money. Think about what it's netting people, whether it's peace of mind, a good financial plan, a solid project plan to move something forward with your team, right?
Yeah.
We need clear goals, and we all need to be on the same song sheet, that we're all working towards the same benefits and successes. Anyway, let's move on to number 2.
Yeah, honestly, we could spend half a day on each tip.
Oh, for a joke.
Easily.
Okay, so tip number 2 is visibility. And this can be scary, because when we let imposter syndrome or the systemic BS take control of our lives, and that's when we start feeling diminished or we isolate. Moving ourselves into a public forum, much like doing this live, can be really overwhelming. You know, Annie talked about how nervous she was when we put ourselves out here in the public and say, I have something of value to share, and I think others would benefit from this as well. Hard. And going out into like the ethernet of the internet can be challenging. But what if we started small? And the way we do that is we can either post it on our own LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Or maybe it's even a post-it note on your bathroom mirror. I made it through the meeting. I successfully survived our first sort of LinkedIn Live, our first live event. We survived.
We survived.
Right?
And we figured out our audio.
Not pretty, not graceful, but we did it.
Yep.
And the more we remind ourselves, and I say this very tongue in cheek, that we didn't die, that nothing like we didn't catastrophize anything, that actually gives us hope. And when we have hope, there is nothing we can't accomplish. We never underestimate the value of hope. And it starts with a small kernel. Oftentimes with my psychotherapy clients in the beginning stages of our relationship, um, I congratulate them for showing up. I congratulate them for like doing the work and thinking about it, and even just showing up and being vulnerable and crying. Because it's those seemingly small steps that add up to monumentous progress. So the action step here is post one insight or achievement, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or your bathroom mirror. And remind yourself of your successes, because in this day and age, nobody else is going to do it for you. How's that?
Yeah, that's great. I've temporarily lost sight of, oh, my screen is loading. I really resonate with this because a lot of people will see me as bold, as, oh, you're great at public speaking, you have no problem speaking up. But the truth is, I go through all the anxiety and the nervousness and the doubting and the fear and the concern and the what if. I go through a lot of that, especially when it's my first time. And one thing that I've discovered is the first time is always the hardest. Everything always takes longer because everything is new. And plus you're dealing with all the physical, emotional, and all the mental filters and fog, and some of you might get nausea and anxiety or whatever the case may be. That's just a part of it. But guess what? After that first time, the second time is so much easier, and the third time is so much easier, and the fourth time is like, we've done that. Let me start teaching you
Right?
how to do that easily.
But
So,
man,
yeah.
when we're stuck and we let that sanity thief win, it is so hard to move out.
And we loop. We keep looping the same thoughts. Oh, we should have. Oh, and we just
should is like the
nobody
worst
likes to
word
be
on the
shit on.
planet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I like that small step because I know for a lot of my friends, like we vibe, we have so much in common, but they wouldn't do it like I would. Like they wouldn't start multi-streaming, after a month and a half of starting their channel, if they even started a YouTube channel, right? A lot of successful people that I know that are speaking up only do podcasting audio version. They don't even show their face, and that's fine because that's what works for them. But even a small step is not, hey, put yourself on YouTube. A small step is, let me get into a one-on-one meeting with somebody and let me share my ideas.
Yeah. Because you're talking about somebody, so I started my business in 2019, and this is the first live I've done.
Right. And I got to say, you don't have to do the small step by yourself, right? This is the first time Lauren and I are doing a virtual webinar of any kind. And I got to tell you that value of community, the value of community, having each other is priceless, because to put on something like this takes a lot of work in the lead up, right? Like we put in hours of work, of collaboration, of, putting even these slides together, figuring out how to use some of these softwares. And because we worked so well together leading up to this, it made it easier. Neither one of us was panicking. We just leveraged each other's strengths. We all stepped up to do what we're great at, right? And it flows. It's so much easier. So sometimes starting small maybe means let's do this together.
Absolutely.
Let's do it with somebody.
Absolutely. So do you want to move on to tip number 3, friend?
Yes. Here we go. Tip number 3, remove your worth from external validation. Now, if you look at, I'm just going to show us for a second here. If you look at me and Lauren for a sec. Let's just remove that banner. You're going to see our names and all these letters after our names. Okay. I mean, I've made it like a profession to get letters after my name to the point where, and I have a long last name, but I have so many letters. I actually have even more than this that I've put up that it's exceeded even the length of my last name. Okay. And why was that important to me over the years, over the corporate career that I had? Well, one, I was trying to stay out of trouble. If I could study something and keep my brain occupied and interested, then I wouldn't get bored and get into trouble and get into the wrong types of things and situations in the working world and personal world as well. But also I felt the need to like prove my worth, show my value, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to get this certification and I'm going to get this designation. And all of that was outside of me.
So would it be fair to say that you did those things for others under the guise of doing it for yourself?
You know what's interesting about that? Yes. And I didn't know it at the time.
You only know what you know.
Yeah.
When you know it.
And I was never, I think that knowledge power is power. Applied knowledge is even more powerful. I have like I said, a very curious, inquisitive mind, and actually studying the things that I did broke down a lot of preconceptions I had about the things that I was studying. As an example, before I took my insurance license, for those who, you know, are just brand new to the industry or been in it for a few years, by the way, not every advisor or planner has an insurance license. Let's just put that out there, right? We all have kind of different licenses and do things a little bit differently. But before I had my investment license, before I got my insurance license, I had this preconception that insurance is only for like, what's the big deal? Somebody dies, somebody gets the money, right? Psh, what can you do with that? It's not interesting at all. But it wasn't until I started studying it that I actually started to learn that it complements the investments recommendations. You can actually use it while you're living. And this is why my dad, who used to be an advisor, said rich people get insurance because that's how they get richer. And now I started to understand why he said that, what he meant by that. But it really opened up my mind. And while it was opening up my mind, yes, it was helping me get promoted and get higher paying roles and jobs, but nothing was really changing inside of me. I was still seeking external validation. For example, that performance review, mid-year and year-end performance review. Anybody? You know, hands up. Yes, yes in the chat. Like, I put so much time and effort into filling out my performance review because I was like, I want to make sure that my achievements, my accomplishments aren't forgotten, but that they're recognized and validated. And inevitably, some of them would be, but then I'd get, you know, some comments because I was doing things that were outside of the box. I wasn't just doing my role. I was actually able to do my role and do other projects, you know, in different parts of the company or even outside of the company. And that wasn't acknowledged. You know, you can only do stuff for us. I mean, I had some supportive leaders along the way, but, you know, if I were to kind of generalize the corporate world, that is definitely the experience that myself and a lot of other people have. But I'll tell you this, the day it was my last performance review, and I no longer cared what it said. I had no interest in reading, you know, what the feedback was, what the improvements were, or what numbers I had hit in terms of, you know, sales or targets. It no longer mattered to me.
Because it held no value to you.
Yes.
And this is a big thing that we're going to be talking about at the Sanity Project. Like, is it us? Is it me? Or is it you? And this is a big thing when you're trying to unpack what your personal values and worth is versus what everyone else's expectation is. I hated performance appraisals. Because you achieve the objectives, but the way you went about it, right? If you don't look a certain way, talk a certain way, toe the company line, like creativity and individuality is just being ground out of us, right? We
Right.
all now talk like ChatGPT, right? Everybody wants this clean influencer look, everything has to be just so. And that's not life. Life is messy, right? Like as we talked about, trying to put this live together. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But the important thing is that we've done it. And I'll,
Yes.
I'll tell you that when I no longer, what's funny? I never read my last performance review and nobody asked me if I did either.
Ugh.
Nobody checked with me. Nobody followed up on it. And I'll tell you this as well. I'll just sharing with everybody. It wasn't until I actually started to put myself out there as an independent in the way that worked for me, allowed me to be fully creative in all the ways that work for me and for others, because the work that I'm doing to show up is about collaborating and contributing to the larger group.
And this is what I think has been lost. It's this notion that we need all of these voices, right? We need the dissenting voices. We need the voices that agree with us. We need the voices that horrify us and scare us, right? Like, let's take what happened at the White House yesterday with the Ukrainian leader.
We're going there, are we?
Well, no, because it's a really interesting thing that's happened.
Yeah.
What would have the outcome been if the president had have met Zelensky from a place of how can I help? As opposed to you will come to me from a place of gratitude and groveling and say thank you for whatever I give you. Who does that serve?
Yeah.
And so when we don't put others first, we actually put ourselves last.
In my financial planning class, one of the concepts I teach is opportunity costs.
Yes.
So the way I explain that in real life terms is if you're saying yes to this, you're saying no to something else.
Yes.
So if you're saying no to yourself and no to your future financial growth or to your career success or personal success, if you're saying no to that, what are you saying yes to?
And then when we apply, and this is a lot of my doctoral work, and then when we apply money to it, because this whole notion, you call it opportunity cost, I call it competing interests, right? So financial advice is a great example. So you get paid to give someone financial advice to how to grow their money. It is in your best interest that your client succeeds, not only for their personal well-being, but yours is also inextricably linked and wrapped up in this. So the value is twofold. But where it becomes critical is which value you, the advisor, and the salary you earn, or you, the advisor, and your duty of care and really doing what's right by your client, you need to choose between these two. And it's really tough when your kid needs braces, your car broke down, and you need a new computer when you don't have any money, right? So how do you generate revenue? And you can't go after your clients all the time because that's churning and that's bad. But that's a really great example of these competing interests, and that we need to recognize how money inserts itself and really messes with our head because of what we think we need
And the meaning
versus
we
the
give to it.
wants, and that as well. It's
Yeah.
very complex.
Yeah. I'm going to just switch over to finish off tip number 3.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the things I recommend to help with this, in terms of external validation versus valuing yourself. This is something that I learned to do because if you're a type A individual, maybe a highly independent career person, you're always looking forward. What's the next thing? What's the next thing? Maybe you're a hyperachiever whose worth and value comes from all of these external things, including designations and courses and titles and whatnot. The thing is, those things are outside of you. And it's not until you actually check in with you, the person, and also check in, like kind of look back. Hey, what's that? What's all that stuff that I've done? I've got like a trail of successes that I kind of, was like, oh, that's cool. And kept on moving to the next. But never actually took the moment to sit and say, wow, I did that.
Well, to enjoy it.
To enjoy it, and to enjoy it that you did it, to enjoy what it meant for you, what you had to learn to even get to that point, but also to enjoy how it impacted the people around you.
Well, and what it means going forward. Right? We're so hurried. We're always in such a rush to get things done. Remember as a kid? Oh, I can hardly wait to grow up. I can hardly wait. I can hardly wait. Yeah, at 53, I'm like, I'm good. I
Now I
can
want to be
wait.
a kid again.
But it's in that rush. And this is sort of a systemic thing again, right? This whole instant gratification thing that social media and this instant hyperconnectivity, we're not wired like that as people. And if we don't sit with our joys, our accomplishment, our successes, along with our failures, our sorrow, and everything else, that full human experience. This is the autopilot, right? When we stop feeling this.
Oh, yeah. And we spoke about that. So we
Yeah.
did a little teaser video. If you go to my YouTube channel, Annie Unleashed, you're going to find the teaser video, which was 15 minutes of me and Lauren talking about this. And we talked about autopilot. So go and check it out. And there's a quick short on that. But yeah, like just living numb.
Yeah. Well, and let's also not ignore when you say living numb. Canadians love to drink. We love to medicate, whether it's food, booze, sex, shopping,
Yeah.
right? We're a
Binge watching.
Sorry?
Binge watching.
Yeah, exactly, right? Anything that doom scrolling, anything to avoid having a feeling. And
Yeah.
that's a huge problem. And that shows up in the advice we give our clients, how we deal with our friends and our loved ones, our children, our spouses, right? Because
Yeah.
we actually don't know where we're at, what's going on. We know the day of the week because we have to.
Yeah, and barely. Sometimes we're like, what day is it again? Let me check the calendar. Let me check my phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was like, I thought today was Friday. I didn't know it was
Yeah,
the
it does
weekend.
not feel like a Saturday, I have to say. But I've got to share this joke, which is actually pretty related to our tip number 3, in terms of keeping a success log about every small win, the client feedback, the lessons learned, the financial milestones, and sharing that. Maybe it's with one person, but my daughter said a joke today. My daughter's really great at knowing like when I'm nervous or stressed, and she starts like, you know, spitting out jokes for me to kind of like ease the stress from within. And she gave me I thought it was awesome. And so I'm going to share it with you guys today, which is very related to tip number 3. So a lobster found a treasure trove, but didn't want to share it with anybody because he was shellfish.
I'll have to remember that, because you know me and my lobster love.
Yes. So it's so wise though. Like, it's hilarious. I love the play on words. You know, if you ever want to like, you know, lift me out of you know, a negative state, like just start, you know, use a sense of humor. But there's also wisdom in that, which is let's not keep our treasures to ourselves.
Because when we hoard things, that's
Yeah.
isolating. That's isolating behavior. We share, and for all the other people out there that believe in manifestation principles and a lot of that new age stuff, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We get what we put out into the world.
Yeah.
And
And
sometimes that means parting with some of our, or sharing our treasure.
yes. And to me, when you're dealing with imposter syndrome, what's important about the sharing, it's not about like bragging or telling everybody, look what I did. It's actually challenging when you're dealing with imposter syndrome to share about yourself. And so the actual part of talking about yourself and saying, hey, by the way, I was involved in this and I worked on this thing and here's the result. And, you know, these people were part of it and I got to speak on this, or here's how it impacted my business and how I was able to grow or even start a business and all these lives that I affected. It's really important to speak up on your behalf. And that takes practice.
1000%. The other thing when we speak up is, and I talk about this in my work, like when we name it, we tame it.
Mm.
And when we share with others, so this is the community connection, collaboration, us as human beings, we're not meant to live in isolation. We are herd people, like creatures. We need other people. And so in our isolating world, because we have more people living alone than together for the first time ever. So we got a bunch of people living alone in little boxes. So we need to start speaking out, because once we find that bravery to go, I'm not okay and this is how I feel, it gives others permission to go,
Yeah.
you know what? Oh my God, I feel the same way too. I thought it was me, thought I was crazy.
Yeah, and actually, that's what I was starting to say earlier, which was once I actually started my channel, once I actually started speaking on stages and in other places, and my channel, my YouTube channel, it's amazing how, without me saying too much, in terms of me putting myself out there, people started to take notice and reach out to me for different kinds of opportunities or just to check in, you know, uh, connect and possibly see what we could do together, which I found really interesting. It was unexpected. It's not something I expected anyway,
If
because
you had a, sorry, go ahead.
it's part of the imposter syndrome. You're like, I'm just going to do this, but nobody's going to notice.
Well, for me, this is showing up. Like if you had have told me, like back in 2019, this is what I'd be doing. This is nothing what I thought my business was going to look, smell, and operate like.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for it, because it's really satisfying this part of me that was silenced for a long time. And that's not only the systemic part, but the liar in my head. you're not smart enough because you don't have any of these financial designations. So therefore you don't get to teach about something that you don't know about, which is the biggest myth, because oftentimes people who know less about it make better teachers because subject matter experts bring their own problems to the show. But it's the joy that I'm finding out of all of this is connecting with the other like-minded people, and like you said, the business that comes in your door or comes to you, and I don't wanna say desperate, it's not the right word, but, like, people are hungry for this. I find a shift in my psychotherapy practice that I'm getting a lot of women my age who are either divorced or widowed, and they don't have any sense of identity. They're like, "I don't know who I am. I don't know what I'm doing." Because for 30 years, I was a stay-at-home mom. I ran the business for my husband and na, 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 na. I did everything for everyone else.
Mm.
Now that everybody's grown up, dead, and gone,
What's my identity?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting, this whole imposter syndrome, because it affects and impacts people in so many different ways. And this is what's coming out of my research is it's actually a bigger problem because it's not just about the phenomena of I don't think I'm good at my job.
Yeah.
Because really, where's all of that messaging coming from?
If
And
this
what's
is
money's role in it?
Yes. If this is resonating with anybody, type a comment in the chat, even if you're just on the replay. Share, because what's really important is for others to see, like, we're not alone. We're not alone in
No.
this. And honestly, we can go like a whole couple hours just on this tip, but we're going to move forward because we've actually spent like it's an hour and 11 minutes that we've been on this. Love that.
Well,
Anybody
the
in
first, but in
synchronicity?
fairness, the first 20 we were working out some technical stuff.
Yeah, but we did it.
We did.
So speaking of identity and rediscovering who we are at different stages of our lives. Let's talk about some common roadblocks that come up. So one of the things we're going to cover 5, but the first one is I don't have imposter syndrome. And the thing is, as I mentioned with that example that I gave earlier, we often don't realize it at the time, right? But if you have ever doubted yourself or worked harder than others, more than you needed to, I even saw on Instagram, I think it was even yesterday, I saw a video of a woman saying that when she left her job, they had to hire 5 people to replace her. And although she, yes, there's a part of you that wants to say like, ha ha, see, she also shared that she was actually incredibly sad because she realized that she had worked so hard and taken on so much for no good reason. And we do this so often. And there's people around us who benefit from that, so they don't try to stop us.
And this is the financial money piece to it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, and especially today, we work in this knowledge-based society, right? People pay us for our brains. And so sometimes our employer, their narratives become our own. And so we're out there touting party lines that actually act in our worst interest. And we give away our agency and autonomy all the time because we need a paycheck.
Yeah. Yeah. And we think that we need to contort ourselves into whatever we currently have because we're so dependent, or we think we are,
Yes.
on the environment that we're in. And so if you've ever second guessed a financial decision, if you've ever felt that you had, you were underqualified or you had unqualified achievements, I can tell you, as somebody who's mentored a lot of people, I've interviewed and hired people in different companies, I look for transferable skills.
Yes.
There are things on a resume that are learnable. My designations are learnable.
Yep.
But my ability to have integrity, to have grit, like that.
To be a decent human being and to treat others with respect.
Yeah.
Pretty basic.
Yes. And not everybody has that.
Nope.
So those are the things that I would look for when I was hiring a team, or even hiring advisors, and people into the team. And so you might not call it imposter syndrome, but if you've second guessed any financial decisions, investments into your business, hesitated to charge what you're worth, what you feel is worth,
or even didn't go for something, a promotion, apply,
yes.
Bid on some job, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
you
I
may
just
not
had
know.
it's really interesting. When you become an entrepreneur, it's tough. And I was warned by a great mentor of mine. In fact, she prepared me before I left the corporate world to become a multipreneur. And she said, okay, and if you're going to do this, you need to learn how to rest. I said, what do you mean rest? What's rest? I sleep. Right? She said, no. You need to learn how to rest. And that meant listening to my body, listening to what I needed, and actually being okay with doing nothing.
Because that is deemed shameful, lazy behavior. And it's this Protestant work ethic that we have. It's a badge of honor being busy. I'm
Yes.
so busy. I'm so stressed out. I just don't have time.
Yes.
And
Oh my God, that's
meanwhile,
so
you're just
crazy.
doom scrolling and eating ice cream on your couch. No judgment, but let's correctly attribute it, because there's a great book actually called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers.
Oh, let me wait, put it up
Yeah.
again.
Why
Oh,
zebras
okay.
don't get ulcers. And human beings are the only ones that can stress themselves out by thinking about stress. So zebras don't hang out on the savannah going, I'm worried that lion is gonna come and have a snack on me. They don't spend their time thinking about that. They're like, oh, this grass is good. I'm feeling a bit thirsty. Maybe I'll have a snooze. Human beings are the only ones that go, oh my God, I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. I'm so stressed. And the more we think about it, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy.
Okay.
Very interesting.
That is like mic drop moment right there. So if you ever thought, I don't have imposter syndrome, but any of the things we just talked about checked with you, feel free to share. But also, this full workshop that we're doing on March 6th may be for you. We'll talk about that more later, but that may be the very thing that could help you along. And by the way, when we talk about taking small steps, you're not going to get into any program or course that's going to suddenly solve it all for you, right? Sometimes showing up to a live workshop, attending an in-depth, this one's going to be on March 6th, a 2-hour workshop where we're going to work through some exercises in a supportive way. Sometimes those are the little steps that you really need in the community to get you to the bigger step.
Yep.
So, okay. So number 2 is, I don't have time, money, or energy for this. Yeah, I can't handle this. I don't want to deal with this. Let me tell you, as a divorced single parent who's also a multipreneur, the number one question I get is, how do you do it all? And it's funny because I'm going to call myself out here as a high achiever. I tend not to think about all the things that I'm doing because I just do them differently now that I'm independent. But when people ask me, so what do you do? And I start talking to them about the things that I do and the things that I'm involved in. And it's not just my businesses, but, speaking, contributing on other people's podcasts and those kinds of things. And then I finished telling them most of that stuff. And I think, wow, that is a lot. Right. But here's the thing, because I was reflecting on this over the last couple of days. When people say, how do you do it all? That's not really what they're asking. What they're really asking is a couple possible questions. What they're really asking is, how did you get the courage to take that first small step? How did you get to a place where you didn't worry what others would think? How did you get to a place where you are okay to just take action imperfectly and be okay with it?
Yep.
And how did you get to a place where you found good people to collaborate with and uplift you and support you? So how do you do it all? Because I mean, the answer is really, well, I don't do it all at the same time. But the true answer is, I put myself into community. I make sure I'm not isolated anymore, because I was a perfectionist at isolating for years.
Yep.
Right. And it did not put me in a great place. Okay. And it was with the wrong people in the wrong environments, all that jazz. And I chose that until I chose differently.
You chose yourself.
I chose myself. And not only was I choosing myself, but I was choosing myself for the benefit of others. And what I mean by that is, especially as I became a mother, you know, they say kids don't listen to what you say, they watch what you do. Right?
I'll take your word for it. I'm not a parent, so yeah.
So if you're a parent, you can resonate with this, you know, pop that in the comments, because you ever have that experience? I mean, you have some little people around you, Lauren, but you know how like they say the darndest things and you're like, oh,
yes.
Where did you hear that? It's like, well, because you said it. And even if you say, don't say this, they're gonna say it. Maybe not in front of you, but elsewhere. Right. And so when we're talking about, let me just bring that I don't have time, money, or energy. I hear you. And here's what I'm going to say. If you're going through financial stress, if you're underpricing yourself, or if you're going through decision paralysis, like asking a gazillion questions about things, but never actually taking action, and that analysis paralysis is holding you back, then you can't afford not to address it. Think about something you've been trying to do for the longest time and still haven't acted on it. Something or many things are holding you back
that you're not always aware of.
Yes. And in our teaser recorded video, we actually said, like, we can't coach ourselves.
No.
We are blind to our filters, to our limiting beliefs. Sometimes they just come out by talking them out, by writing them out in a guided, safe way. And sometimes it's something that somebody else says that you think, oh, wait, yeah, me too. Right? So this workshop that we're going to do on March 6th will save you time in the long run by helping you make clear, confident financial decisions without the overthinking and the self-doubt slowing you down.
So it's not only going to net you more money, right? It's going to increase your network. It's going to give you the opportunity to say the things out loud that you've been afraid to say out loud, right? Can you throw up the slide again?
Yeah.
Because it sort of dovetails nicely into point 3 of, well, I can figure this out on my own. Some people can, but to Annie's point, most can't, because we don't have that objectivity to really take a hard look and hold ourselves accountable. And that's where having professional coaches like Annie or therapists like me come into the scene, because we can view things from that exterior and go, are you sure you know how this is coming across? Right?
I can tell you that some of the biggest pivotal moments in my life, the things that I feel, not that others told me, but that I feel like were big accomplishments, I could not figure out I had to get out of my own way, and I didn't even know how.
One of my greatest technological tools that I've just created, this Where You At tool, came out of something that wasn't even me, that was brought to my attention, and I went, well, of course, this just makes sense. But I didn't know that we needed it until somebody else pointed it out, right? And so when we talk about this next point, what if I feel called out or uncomfortable? Well, you already feel that way anyways, because you may be getting called out at work for behavior that doesn't conform, doesn't fit, doesn't look, your performance appraisals, or even your friends are like, hey man, this is not what I'm about. So either way, you're feeling uncomfortable, so you may as well lean into the uncomfortable that's going to get you out of this, as opposed to doubling down on this.
100%. And I just added a comment in the chat. Are you ready to say to yourself, like, I don't do it all. I cannot do it all. I choose what is a priority, delegate, ask for help, use your connections, and drop the rest. Right? That's something that you popped into the private chat, which I'm putting in the public chat.
Because I don't know how to publicly chat in
I
this
know
thing.
we're going to figure that out, but listen, we're talking about how do we figure it out? Well, we're not going to figure this out on our own at this moment, right? Nope. We've figured out a workaround, but I can tell you that I'm going to reach out to my community and my group chats and say, hey, does anyone ever got
this work?
Help me out? Yeah, I think that I am an expert in, I can do this by myself.
Yeah.
And literally this week, so here's something really important to know. Imposter syndrome is not something that you're just like, oh, I have cured myself and it is done. I shall never see you again. Imposter syndrome is one of those things that just keeps coming back. Why? Because it's your brain trying to protect you, right? That's how the brain is working, because it learned since you were a kid of things that were dangerous or unsafe, or risky.
Well, and this is sort of the interesting part, because you're not wrong. I'm just going to slide a little context in there.
Yeah.
So we learn all these things. So by the time we're 5, 6, we're fully formed human beings in terms of our values, how we perceive and engage in the world, and all of that stuff. So we get that that's the intergenerational piece, that's our parents and our community, that whole biopsychosocial piece. But oh no, I just totally forgot what I was saying.
Oh, it's about how our brains are formed.
Right. So
I got you.
It's mostly, this work is about untraining and retraining, right? I talk a lot about getting off the crazy train with my work, because your brain is a lot like the 401 when it's 18 to 30 lanes wide. Because the more we repeat the same stories, the more ingrained, and that becomes our natural default positioning. And we get that either from internal or from external. And so it's about reframing. And we do that by letting others know that we are struggling, because that's an indicator, and that signals that we want change and we're making a conscious decision. But imposter syndrome never goes away. But what does change is our response to it. And that's what this work is.
I can tell you that I still, and I'll tell you, a lot of people say, wow, you've done all this amazing stuff. You've done all these, you accomplished this, you spoke here, you did that. And I still have more to do. But there are still things that I'm doing that I get uncomfortable with.
Oh, every day.
But
opening email.
I know when that uncomfortable is that, the judgy brain trying to kick in. And I know that I have to move through it despite that.
And that's one of
because of it.
Yes. And that's sort of the big thing that we're going to work on March 6th is identifying the lies we tell ourselves, creating the new narrative, the truth, right? And practicing that. Because
So
you
good. Yes.
literally have to go, I am worthy, I am smart, or whatever that's going to look
And
like.
we're
And we're
not
going
going
to
to be doing
that.
it like that, but
No, but we're going to figure out that, like, because my thing is, and how I deal with this, when I feel the imposter syndrome creeping up, I'm like, I will have none of your shenanigans, brain.
you can leave.
Yeah, no, but I literally stop myself and I'm like, nope, nobody has time for this nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's what I'm going to do instead.
Exactly. And that's really
here's how I'm going to
6 in
approach
a
this
nutshell.
instead. Yes. So, okay, let's go through number 4. What if I feel called out or uncomfortable? Ooh, 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 ooh. Go ahead, Lauren, because this is about visibility as well.
Well, and I already sort of actually alluded to this, right? Because you already are coming into this feeling uncomfortable. So now this is about making conscious choices of, do you want to stay in uncomfortable, which doesn't necessarily mean bad, painful, or a detriment. It just means you need more information. So this is more of the reframing. Do you want to sit and be miserable and unhappy and unfulfilled? Or do you want to come to a place where it still feels uncomfortable, just different, and figure your way out?
Yeah, because as we've said, we can't do this by ourselves. And what this workshop, which by the way will be available virtually on March 6th as well, if you're not in Toronto, it's about uncovering the patterns that don't serve you anymore and replacing them with ones that empower you in
Yes.
what works for you and how that impacts your financial decisions, because we need money to do pretty much everything. It's the
Yes.
meaning that we give to money, which is just a tool, that is creating that gap from who we were to what we're becoming, who we're becoming.
Well, I don't think the money creates the gap. Money creates the false, it's like almost like a false idol or imagery.
Yeah, we are creating the gap between us and what money can do for us.
Yeah, I would agree with
Right?
that. Yeah.
With our thoughts, with our judgy, self-critical thoughts. So let me put back. Okay, so now we're not number 5. I don't want others to know I struggle with this.
There's power. There's power in sharing.
Yes.
I see this in my when I work with individuals in recovery.
Yeah.
You know, there is incredible power to the collective and the group. And the dissenters and the people that want to keep us down, like the naysayers, they don't want us talking to each other. They don't want us forming and collecting as a group. Money wants us isolated.
You know, I was on a podcast recently, and the question I was asked was, what's more important? Human beings over profit, or profit over human beings?
Yep.
And my answer was, well, that's easy. Human beings, because humans create currency.
Well, again, I would challenge that. Now we're getting off of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because if you read David McWilliams' book,
let me show that. Yep.
It's called Money, A Story of Humanity. And it talks about the evolution and how money came to be, but money's impact and effect on humanity. And it really becomes a story of, is it the dog wagging its tail, or is it the tail wagging the dog? And in this instance, money is the tail of the dog. So who's in control here? Us or money?
Love that. Yeah. And so I didn't expand on it in that podcast, but I think the point I was trying to make was that, to your point, actually, where we don't want to be influenced by the tail. We don't want the tail moving us.
Right.
Right.
That's problematic.
Right. But we can, by the way, I'm a dog owner. So any dog owners, any pet owners, pop yes, or what kind of pet owner you are in the comments. Even if it's a replay, please. Pet owners unite. But in the actions that you take, in the communities you participate in the ways that you collaborate, even energetically, you are creating currency. You are creating something.
Well, so now you're talking about, so this is a whole other thing, which we could totally have another conversation about.
Yeah, not today.
Right? Because we know there's social capital.
Yeah.
Right? We know that there's cold hard cash, but then there's all these other things of value, whether it's minerals, Bitcoin, human beings.
Yeah. So let me just put this slide back up. So, I get it when you say, I don't want others to know that I struggle with imposter syndrome. The fact is that a lot of the most successful people that we know, CEOs, celebrities, financial leaders, struggle with imposter syndrome. And
80% of the world's population.
80%. I don't know how that stat got created, but
well, that's the research I've done.
That's amazing. Okay, so Lauren's working on her PhD thesis, and so because of that, she's had to do a lot of research and looking for stats, statistics, and numbers and data to support her thesis, or to challenge it. And so, our workshop on March 6th, it's a 2-hour workshop where we're actually going to dive in a lot deeper than what we're doing today. Will actually provide the safe space so that you can gain the tools, not the judgments.
And the confidence.
Yeah.
And we get that through connecting with others, practicing, naming it to tame it, all of those things.
I'll tell you that I'll share another example just to open up and be vulnerable and see if maybe you can relate to this, whoever is watching and listening. When I started going through my separation, when I was, and even just before that, the struggles that I was having, the things that I was covering about my relationship that I hadn't known for years, but suddenly everything kind of came to the surface. And I have a video about this on my YouTube channel as well, Annie Unleashed, where I talk about my divorce story and all kinds of things. But one of the things that was kind of the tail wagging me was I didn't want people to know that even though I was a financial planner giving solid logical advice to people, that I hadn't followed the logical advice when it came to my financial situation, because I felt like I had to prove myself as a wife, as a partner. So I had misplaced loyalty where I was taking on his debt into my name because I had a promotional rate and we can pay the debt off faster. So that is not something I would ever recommend to anybody. But somehow me, the person, thought, but we're partners, we're together. And it just didn't make any sense. And that was just one of many examples. Now, because of my background and my knowledge and skills, I was able to recover a lot faster and, do the work, but also financially recover. But that was one of those things where I was like, I don't want people to know I'm struggling with this. I don't want people to know what I'm going through. I don't want people to know that I'm in 5-figure debt. Like, what would they think about me? What would that say about me? The reality is that it actually made me a better advisor.
Absolutely, because
planner.
you are the sum of your experiences.
Yeah. And so when I'm actually talking to people, when they're coming to me for help with their financial planning, and their money issues, and goals and dreams, I remove the shame out of it because I can say I've been there.
Yeah.
I've done that. In fact, I may have done worse. And I figured out, not just what was that saying about me, what I was really going through, what was my internal dialogue, and how were my actions reflecting that, but also how did I like tangibly get out of it in a smart way, right? And into a better situation. So, if you don't want others to know that you're struggling with this, you're already in imposter syndrome and isolating yourself.
Yep.
And it's not necessary. Because you know what? When I was getting separated and divorced, I didn't know anybody else going through it. But guess what? There are
Everyone is.
everyone, right? Everyone's dealing with this. And we don't even have to tell our horror stories. We just get each other.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. I think we should start wrapping this up because
Yeah.
our half an hour was, all right.
We're learning. So
and enjoying every minute of it.
Yes, we really shared a lot more with all of you than we were planning to. But it's important that we deliver the value, but also that you understand you're not alone. We're just trying to give you a lot of examples, right?
And I really like this sentence here. Your success isn't a fluke; you've earned it. So own it, and we can help you with that. And once you take command and take back the control over your self-identity, because really that's what happens with this imposter syndrome, right? It erodes at your self-identity because you're like, who am I? So that's the important thing. Let's own it and let's start that together.
So if you want to continue with the community here today, go to this link. We have a QR code here as well. Let me see if I can actually maximize the screen here. And it is taking place Thursday, March 6th. So next Thursday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the reason we mention that is because we collectively have a lot of people in our network that are not just in Canada, but all over. So in the US, parts of Europe, Asia, all over the world. And now, if you're in person, if you happen to be able to join us in person in Toronto, there are 10 spots left. Yep. So I would say, click on the link and register. And I'm going to let Lauren share a little bonus because we are actually sharing a special treat with you guys. But before we do that, there's in person and there is a virtual component. So if you can't make it with us in person, we want to be able to impact as many people as possible. So we've made this a virtual. So we're going to do it a hybrid event. And so if you can join us virtually, you're more than welcome to. And Lauren, do you want to share our special bonus that we're offering today for people who are listening to this?
I don't remember what
it is. Okay. Our special bonus is a 2-for-1. So if you would like to invite a friend, there is a special code that I believe it is actually 2-for-1, right?
Yeah.
Let me type this in the chat. Special code. So 2-for-1. And that's in the chat now. So when you click on the registration link, and there should be a code box, apply code. And if you type in 2-for-1, then you'll be able to get 2 tickets for the price of 1. And even then, it's really affordable. I think virtually we made it $29 plus tax. Yep. If you're a Verity member, a Verity Club, a local women's private club in Toronto, it's $39. And if you're coming in person, it is $49. But hey, with this special bonus that we decided to offer because we really wanted to impact more people and have you and your friends join you. And because we're talking about financial decisions, we don't want this to be a barrier. No. So we're going to offer this as a 2-for-1. And you just put that code in, you get 2 tickets, invite your friend. We will, we'll need to know the email address at that point when you register, and we will send you all the details as we get closer to. We are super excited, and
we look forward to seeing you there.
Yes, and you can find us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and we each have websites, and I'm going to pop that in the chat as well so that you can figure out where to find Lauren if you resonated with parts of her story and her expertise. You can find her on LinkedIn and her website. And as for me, I'm available. I have a website, I have LinkedIn, and my YouTube channel, Annie Unleashed. I'm so grateful for those who showed up. And for those that are watching the replay, I appreciate you. Type in the comments, what resonated for you? What are you struggling with? Most people don't have their real names anyway when they're putting comments in YouTube. So don't worry, no one will know who you are. But the important step that you took was to actually write it out and put it out there in this community, which is a very supportive community. And so feel free to connect with us. We would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. If you do have any questions that we haven't addressed in this really extended live webinar, then please put it in the comments and we will reply to you. I check all my comments and reply to each one of them. So I appreciate your time, everybody. Lauren, any final words?
I just hope to see you there, because life doesn't have to be like this. There is a way to enjoy your life, to have a satisfying life that is free from feeling like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we are really looking forward to seeing you take your small step.
Yay.
And we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.